what do you feel like after you release your seed? Do you feel ambitious? Do you feel energized? Do you feel like you just want to take the world by the balls and go for it? Like, well, what are you feeling? Are you feeling motivated? Are you feeling connected to God? Are you feeling lit and light and happy and motivated? Do you want to cuddle your partner and love her and pleasure her more? Because for me, when I release my seed, I just want a sandwich and go to bed. Like back in the day, I was like, I just want, can you just make me a sandwich so I can go to bed? I just want to sleep. I feel really drained. I feel just depleted and I don't feel great.
So we have Zac McKnight with us today. Zac is the creator of the Masterpiece Method, a system designed to help men master their sexual energy through brain, spine, and nervous system function. He's a certified alpha biotics practitioner, a Kundalini instructor, and a men's coach focused entirely on vitality and bodily purification. What drew me to his work is his recognition of a core mechanical truth. A man cannot process higher realities, lead effectively, or embody his true power if his physical vessel is stuck in a chronic stress response. Today, we are unpacking exactly how to clear that density and master the energy within. Zac, welcome.
Thank you, Justin. I feel so welcome. Honored to be here, brother.
Thanks, man. This is going to be a good one. So, before we get into sexual cultivation, we have to talk about the physical vessel. A massive turning point for you happened on Maui when a friend gave your partner an alpha biotic alignment that instantly lifted a decade of chronic back pain. You realized then that people cannot receive truth until their body feels safe. Walk us through that mechanism. Why is it impossible to do real spiritual work when the body's stress signal is constantly firing?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like stress is one of the biggest pandemics in the world right now. The world that we live in is filled with so much stress, from the 5Gs and the EMFs and the cell phones and, you know, the food that we put in our body or that's, given to us. And yeah, when I was on Maui, like you said, my partner was experiencing lower back pain for over 10 years. And the teachers of Alpha Biotics actually came to that same house, and offered her an alignment. And her body lifted off the table immediately, and her back pain was lifted. And she said, "Oh my God, the back pain is gone." And I said, "What is that? I have to learn how to do that." And so they happened to be training and have a training that week. And so I left that week and went to Nevada City and trained for a year in that modality. And what I learned through that is that the brain and nervous system control the whole body. The brain affects the nerves affect the fascia affect the muscles, and the muscles affect the bones. When the body is in stress, the pain is overwhelming and we can't really connect to a higher source if our vessel that we're residing in is in physical pain and also distracted by that stress state. And when we're in that stress state, actually what happens is our brain lateralizes to one side. So one side of our brain is dominant, the other side is subdominant. And then what happens to the body is our shoulder actually hikes up and our hip actually hikes up about a half inch, which puts 10 pounds more pressure on one side of the body than the other. And so over time, that accumulates into chronic unrelieved stress, and it starts accumulating into cancer and disease and illness. And, as long as the body is locked in that stress state, we're not using whole brain function, and we're out of balance, and we're not connecting to our hearts because most of our energy is being spent protecting us. I feel like our body has this innate wisdom, this innate intelligence, and that intelligence, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it God, you can call it spirit, you can call it love, whatever resonates with you, but there's an intelligence within our body. It beats our heart. It keeps all these organs working in perfect unison. It runs the blood through our veins, and it's just making this beautiful machine run optimally without us even having to think about it. And if we're in stress, and we're locked in that chronic stress state, that innate wisdom is spending most of its energy protecting you instead of spending all of its energy healing you. And so I always say the innate wisdom of your body can't heal you and protect you at the same time. It can do one or the other. And if it's protecting you, it's not healing you, you know? And so I always say, like, if you're being chased by a lion, you're not going to stop and check if your lower back's okay. You're going to keep running for the hills, you know? If you're being chased by a lion, you're not going to stop and pray real quick. You're going to keep running, and your only focus is to get out of that lion's point of view and save yourself. And so I feel like when we're in that stress state, we're always looking out for danger, and we're so focused on what's here instead of widening our view and opening our eyes and saying, there's actually so much more going on out here, never mind what's going on in here, you know? And so I feel like stress is one of the biggest distractions in life. I don't think a lot is possible when we're in that stress state, you know?
Yeah, certainly not. And I love the sort of simplistic way of comparing to music and just looking at harmony versus discord. So take a scenario where you're trying to get something done. You're trying to accomplish a task. You've got your focus on something in particular. And imagine the most discordant sound possible, the kids band practicing off in the corner or whatever. It's just some horrible tune. There's no way that you can focus on what you're doing in that moment.
Mm.
You know, there's no way that I'm going to be able to accomplish that task.
Mm.
But then have that same scenario and have your absolute best favorite song, your best music that you work most well to, or something that you can really get in groove along with. And that's the comparison, is like when our body is in this discordant state, when the chaos is ensuing, it can't do anything that it's trying to accomplish. So we've got to bring it back into harmony. And I love how you presented it in this way of like bringing us back into alignment. We're not looking for something external. We're not looking for some pill or some solution outside of us. We're just trying to get the body back into do what it does miraculously at its best. It's a miracle. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We are the miracle. And I think one of the biggest things that the medical field focuses on is the symptom. They're all focused on the symptom, about fixing the symptom. But the symptom isn't the symptom. The symptom is the signal. The symptom is the signal that the body is giving us to let us know, hey, I am really stressed out, and I've been stressed out for a really long time. So please take care of this. And if you don't take care of this, my signals are gonna keep getting louder, and my lower back pain is gonna turn into cancer. You know, my sore arm is gonna turn into some disease or illness. But I really don't think that disease and illness even exists. I don't think that any of that stuff. I think they're all just labels, because it's not a symptom. It's a signal. And if it's not about focusing or trying to fix the signal, it's about going to the root cause of what is actually causing the symptom to begin with. And again, that's stress. Stress is, I mean, I would say higher, but just for, you know, for the, I would say at least 98% of most physical ailments and disease and illness come from stress. You know, it's just the body under stress. It's the brain imbalance, the body's under stress. And yeah, like we said, it's spending most of its energy protecting us instead of healing us. So the key is to get out of the symptom fixing and into the root cause, focusing on the root cause and finding out what that is, which is stress. So
100%. I mean, dis-ease, it's in the word, it's dis-ease. When we're out of ease, we know it's
yeah.
just, it's a signal to get us back into ease, get us back into the flow. So yeah, perfectly said.
Yeah.
So yeah, most men today are operating with a highly distorted sexual energy. What is the default way the modern man handles his sexual energy? And what is the real world consequence of that distortion?
Hmm. I think one of the main ways a man handles his energy is through pornography and vigorous masturbation and their seed, you know, on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day. I'll speak for myself. And in my journey, when I first learned how to masturbate as a man, I was 12 years old and I was in heaven. This is the greatest thing in the world. I'm just going to keep doing this. And then as I got older, access to magazines, I was masturbating several times a day, vigorously. And no one ever taught us that that actually drains your life force energy. And when you're really young, you don't really notice, you don't really understand. You're a big ball of fire filled with energy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just feels good. So I'm just gonna keep doing it. But as we get older, and we get into a habit, and we start creating patterns, and we start becoming addicted to that dopamine release that pornography brings us. And then before you know it, we're draining our life force energy, and we're programming ourselves how to treat women, what love is supposed to look like, what sex is supposed to look like, and we get really intimidated as men with just the size of men's genital areas, the way that they show up and treat women. The sex just looks, it's not reality. It's a show. It's all a big show, and we don't understand that as a kid. We just try to be that, and then before you know it, we're locked in this way of, like I said, disrespecting women and releasing our seed every day. And yeah, it does. Honestly, I always say, back to the fight or flight thing, ejaculation and orgasm are actually two separate things. Ejaculation is actually a sympathetic fight or flight response. It's when we get where we've programmed and conditioned our mind that when we're in a aroused state, we move into fight or flight, because of when we first started masturbating as men, we're like hiding behind the covers where our door is closed. Hopefully you can lock the door. Hope mom doesn't come in. Hope no one sees me. And it's like a shameful act. And we store a lot of shame in our pelvic floor. And we train and program our brains to go into a fight or flight response when we're in an aroused state. And so our muscles tighten, our hips tighten, and our pelvic floor gets overwhelmed and filled with so much pressure and energy. And when it can't take it anymore, and the pelvic floor gets so tight, it releases that ejaculation. And we've programmed ourselves to orgasm at the same time. But there's so much more to orgasm than just that little 5-second genital orgasm that we're so used to.
Yeah, and it makes total sense why such a simple allure of something that we're naturally drawn to becomes such a detrimental drain of that life force. So
Mhm.
what would you say happens to a man's like ambition, their focus, and their ability to execute when his sexual energy is constantly leaked or mismanaged?
Yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, really just close your eyes and go back to a moment as a man after after having sex and releasing your seed, after watching porn and releasing your seed, after having when you first wake up in the morning and you masturbate. What do you feel like after you release your seed? Do you feel ambitious? Do you feel energized? Do you feel like you just want to take the world by the balls and go for it? Like, well, what are you feeling? Are you feeling motivated? Are you feeling connected to God? Are you feeling lit and light and happy and motivated? Do you want to cuddle your partner and love her and pleasure her more? Because for me, when I release my seed, I just want a sandwich and go to bed. Like back in the day, I was like, can you just make me a sandwich so I can go to bed? I just want to sleep. I feel really drained. I feel just depleted, and I don't feel great, but the trick is, there is a release. There is a feeling. And I feel like that's what us as men are addicted to, because the masculine likes it the masculine likes there to be an end to something. I feel like there's a beginning and there's an end. There's this completion that we're all looking for. We're very goal oriented as men, and we like to have that oh that feeling. But that feeling is actually your life force being drained, and there's other ways you can get to that ah without releasing and draining your life force every day.
Fascinating. Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think all men can relate to that feeling of depletion. And yeah, like you said, it's right there. It's obvious when we start tapping into it, and just how detrimental that continuous act can be. Perhaps not once or twice, but when it's continuous, day in, day out, it does become a consistent diminishing of our essence. So yeah, thank you for saying that. So your specific path into sexual mastery was initiated by an intense direct experience. So you've said 6 years ago at the top of Haleakalā, a priestess recognized a struggle in you and offered a session that completely shattered your reality. So first, I want you to describe what was this struggle that she noticed in you, and then what happened from there.
Yeah, the struggle that she noticed in me was the high amount of sexual energy that I had carried. I was up there at the top of Haleakalā just feeling really depleted, really drained and really anxious. When you release your seed every day, in my personal experience, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. There's this loss, there's this confusion, there's this searching for something. And when you're empty of life force, I think that's where the purpose comes from. That's where the passion comes from. That's where the drive comes from. And if that's being drained every day, you're just looking for that everywhere outside of yourself, but it's actually already within you. We're just draining it every day. um, but yeah, I was up at Haleakalā and I was actually looking for my purpose. I was in my head, just kind of looking around. I really want know what I'm here for. I have all this energy and it's so overwhelming. I can masturbate 3 times in a day and I still have this anxious drive to just, what is it, but it's not calm. It's not purpose driven. It's anxiety. It's confusion. And I want to know what my purpose is so I can start using this energy in a way that doesn't deplete me. My soul knew. And so this woman walked up to me and she sat down next to me and she put her hand on my knee and she looked at me right in my eyes and she said, "Tell me." I said, "Tell you what?" She said, "Tell me." I said, and it literally just came out without me even thinking about it. I was so honest with her because she was looking at me right through my soul. And she said, I looked at her and I said, "I have a lot of sexual energy." And she said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Here's my card. What are you doing Thursday at 4 p.m.?" I said, "I have no idea." She said, I'll be at your house Thursday at 4 p.m. And so, yeah, that's what she saw in me was the high amount of sexual energy that I was carrying. And I think she's been doing this work for quite a while. So I feel like most men have this, problem. And she saw me searching for it. So she just picked up on it and said, I bet I can help this man. So very grateful for her and how she picked up on that and had the courage to walk up to me and ask me, has it changed my life?
Beautiful. So take us through what happened from there.
Yeah. So Thursday at 4 p.m. came and sure enough, she showed up at my doorstep. And so I let her in and I was really confused. I had no idea what was going to happen. I just met this woman at Haleakalā and here she is in my house. And she said, "Okay, this is how it's going to work." She said, "I'm going to give you a sensual body work massage." And as a man, I was like, "Let's go." Like, yes, I was so excited. And she said, "Yes, but one thing." And I said, "What?" She goes, "You can't release your seed." And I said, "Wait, what?" She said, you're not allowed to release your seed." I said, "Why would I release my seed?" She goes, "Well, I'm going to give you a lingam massage," which is like massaging the penis. And I said, "Oh my God, sweet." I was like, "Wait, I can't release my seed though." She goes, "No." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Trust me. Just trust me. Just follow my guidance and let go and trust and surrender." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." So she gave me a sensual bodywork massage and she ended up massaging my lingam for about an hour and edged me for an hour. I was on the edge of releasing my seed the whole time. But what she was doing is she was taking her hand and placing it on my lower belly and she was moving it up into my heart and telling me to take a deep breath. Ah, and just kept moving it to my heart. And she knew exactly what she was doing. And I was just shaking and my whole body was convulsating and just going absolutely berserk. And after an hour of that, I was literally about to release my seed. Something needed to happen. I was just ready to explode. And she said, take one more deep breath. And it felt like she almost punched me in my in my stomach and like literally blasted this energy through my crown. And I had this full body energetic orgasm. It felt like my whole body was like seizuring. I It was colorful. I was seeing colors. It was like this full body, bone racking, energetic, ayahuasca status, colorful, out of body, wild, amazing experience. My whole body was just electrified. And when I finally came back into my body, I looked around and I wasn't erect anymore. I was soft. I didn't release my seed. And I was so blown away. I said, wait. How can I? First of all, what was that? Because that was insane. That was the best. If that was an orgasm, I wouldn't even call that an orgasm. That's wild. And I didn't release my seed. Where did that energy go? I was just so baffled, you know? And she said, well, that's what you're going to teach men how to do. And that's what you're going to do for women. And I said, what? She said, yeah, I'll see you next week. And so this woman took me under her wing for 3 months straight, came to my doorstep every Thursday and taught me how to massage women, how to give a proper breast massage, how to give a yoni massage, how to move energy throughout a woman's body, taught me how to circulate my energy, and was giving me these experiences every week so I could start learning how to, move this energy. And then she eventually had to go off to Peru to continue her work. And I went to the mainland and went to several tantra schools and then came back and was actually practicing sensual body work for women for years. And I learned so much through that. And in that, if you're going to be doing that, you need to learn how to circulate your energy. And so I actually started my journey by learning a lot of Mantak Chia's work and a lot of other, a lot of different masters on the island as well. But a lot of their practices had to do with tightening the pelvic floor and really like breathing super hard and clenching your muscles and forcing the energy upward. And it never felt right to me to force energy up. I said, there's got to be another way. And so I met this teacher and he actually taught me how to circulate my sexual energy through mind body awareness practices and how to relax the pelvic floor, not tighten it, unravel the knot. Because the reason why we release our seed is because of because of tightness in the pelvic floor. If the pelvic floor is tight, then you're not able to move it throughout your body effortlessly. And then the ejaculation fight or flight response happens and you release your seed. But if you don't tighten your pelvic floor and your pelvic floor stays relaxed the whole time, you literally won't release your seed. And that blew my mind. And another man took me under his wing and taught me these practices, and everything shifted for me then, because then I was able to relax into the pleasure and fully surrender and move that energy effortlessly. And so that's what I've been on the journey from ever since I learned those practices and met that priestess, is how can I master my sexual energy through relaxation. And that's when the masterpiece method was born.
That's beautiful. So it was really like an intuitive movement to get to that space of, I mean, you said you met the guy who taught you that practice of softening instead of clenching, but you had that intuitive knowing that this doesn't feel like the way, this doesn't feel like the sustainable, continuous way to move forward with that. So I'm curious, where did you, because that typically is for those who have started to look into or haven't looked into it before, that's typically the way that it is taught when you start searching, when you start going down these ways. At least it has been for me. So how did you discover this teaching? How did you discover this way of softening instead of tightening?
I honestly, I met him online. Honestly, he had a course online, and what was happening is I wanted to cultivate my seed. I had a passion for cultivating my seed, the priestess really had planted that seed, letting me know that when you release your seed, you're releasing your life force energy, and you really want to learn how to cultivate that. Well, cultivating your sexual energy is not an easy task, as I'm sure a lot of men can agree, and so I would just maybe last 3, 4, maybe 5 days at a time. And it was just so overwhelming. I was waking up with the biggest erections ever. And what do I do with this thing? And I didn't even know what, and I just had to release my seed over and over and over again. And I just, and so I actually, I don't even know, man, it was just, I mean, it's just so magical how these practices and these teachers come into your life, because it was God. It was just, I don't even remember what I looked up. I think I looked up blue balls or something, how to heal blue balls, because I had blue balls. I had they were painful, man. If I didn't release my seed, I was in pain. I'm like, what is this? Like, I got to heal this. There's got to be a way to do this. And so I think I looked up how to heal blue balls, or how to breathe into my testicles, or how do I, release tension out of my testicles, or something like that. And then his name popped up, and I looked at one of his videos on YouTube, and 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 then I went to his website, and then I saw his course, and I actually just followed him on YouTube for years, and then eventually took his course, and it changed my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So walk me through the literal physical sensation of grounding sexual energy. If a
Mm.
man is trapped entirely in his head, what is the concrete physical first step to shifting that awareness down into the body?
Mm. Well, there's two things. There's breath, and then there is getting out of the head. And there's people that say this all the time. Just stop thinking, meditate, watch the thoughts as they pass by like clouds in the sky. Okay, great. Well, I'm thinking about 1,000 different things right now, and I'm watching them pass by, and I'm not present, and I still have an erection. So I don't know what you're talking about. And that's what my mind was. So how we do it is, first of all, the way that we're breathing. You know, when we breathe into our chest, we're breathing into our chest, which is shallow breathing. We're not getting a lot of oxygen. And when we breathe into our chest, that's actually a stressful way to breathe. It actually accesses the sympathetic nervous system. When we're breathing into our chest, it accesses the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight response. And so the way that we're breathing is everything. So I actually teach men how to breathe into their lower belly, how to expand their lower belly, and even breathe deeper than their lower belly, breathe into their pelvic floor. And there's different energy centers within the belly, within the pelvic floor as well, that we breathe into and expand. And so just breathing into your lower belly alone and expanding the belly on the inhale and contracting the belly on the exhale, that alone will breathe up to 70% more oxygen that way. So if breath is life, then if we're breathing 70% more oxygen, we're breathing 70% more life. Then I don't know about you, but I would love 70% more life into my life, So it all starts with the breath. And then the practice isn't to stop the mind from thinking, because you can't do that. I'm sorry. With the world we live in, it's really hard to stop the mind. It's about giving the mind so much to do that it has no chance to think about anything else. It's about really, I like to always use this analogy of imagining that the mind is like liquid. Literally imagine that your mind is like liquid filled with water, and your body is like a sponge. And imagining that your mind is being soaked up by the body. And so one of the first grounding practices that I teach in the Masterpiece Method is how to absorb the mind into the feet. And so I teach men how to imagine that the feet are like little sponges and the mind is liquid. And with every inhale, breathe in and suck the energy in from the earth into your feet. And then on the exhale, blow that air, that energy out of your feet into the earth. And if you are literally focusing all your mind's awareness on the feet, eventually what happens is you start feeling your feet start tingling, and you start because the energy goes where the mind goes. And so if you're thinking about something else, your mind is going, all your energy is going there. And that's what we're all trained to do, is outsource our energy. Outsource. We're always thinking about the future. We're thinking about the past, because we're in the mind, and it's the ego. The ego is never present. It's always in the past, worrying about what just happened, or it's always in the future, having anxiety about what's going to happen. But rarely do we be present right here, right now. But how do we do that? And it's really bringing the mind into the body. And so I teach men how to breathe into different energy centers within their body. There's several different energy centers in the body that I train men how to absorb their mind in those energy centers and really just get lost in the body. Just think about your feet. It's that simple. Just focus on your feet. Focus on the blood rushing through your veins. Focus on your heartbeat. And then from that point, let the thoughts pass by like clouds in the sky. Don't get attached to them. Just let them pass. But then keep bringing it back. Keep bringing it back. I think it was Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. He said, this quote really helped me to release some of the tension that I had and the frustration I had of being present. He said, every time you notice that you're not present, you are now present. And so it's not, oh, I can't think about my feet because I always end up thinking about something else. Well, every time you notice that you're thinking about something else and you bring it back to the feet, you're present. So if you just keep doing that and you make that a daily practice, then eventually you're going to increase your capacity to focus on the feet longer. And then that capacity is going to grow. And I've been doing this for years, man. It's not, hey, come join me for 6 weeks and you're going to master your sexual energy forever. It's no. It's about learning the foundation and having the foundation and the practices and building on those month after month after year. 6 years later, I'm just getting started. It keeps getting better and better and better. And there's always more. And that's what I love about the sexual energy is there's never a cap on it. We've never mastered anything because it's infinite. It's life. You can't master life. It's infinite. It never stops. It just keeps getting better. So the question is, when do you want to get started? Not when is it going to end?
Yeah, truly is this perpetual exciting adventure that never ends. And how much better is that? Because how boring would it be if it had an ending point or a finality to it? It's just this perpetually expansive. So yeah.
Mhm.
And I loved how you touched on the body being this consistent portal to presence. It's like an anchor to the present moment that we have with us at all times. It's our best friend that's with us to always bring us back, because the body exists nowhere else except the present moment. So it's always our friend to guide us back into that space. And all we have to do is lean into it. It's always there for us. So that was very well
Yeah.
said. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the body carries so much. It's the infinite, The body is not thinking. The body is always present. So whenever you think about your heartbeat, whenever you focus on your blood rushing through your veins, whenever you focus on your feet, whenever you focus on anything in the body, that moment that you are focused on that, you are present. So it's all about presence and then moving that energy with your breath and through mind body awareness. And that's what I teach, is how to move that energy through breath and mind body awareness. There's different breathing techniques, there's different pathways, there's different energy centers, there's like a plethora of exercises that I teach. But at the end of the day, it is simple. It's presence, breath, and mind body awareness, and then keeping the pelvic floor relaxed. And through that will calm and regulate the nervous system. So it's a, yeah.
Yeah, just building that solid foundation, like you said. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
By step, brother.
speaking of that foundation, you are currently deep into a 90-day juice fast. How
Yeah.
does the physical density of the food a man eats directly impact his nervous system's capacity to handle this kind of energetic current?
Mm. Man, again, I'll just speak from me, because everyone's different, right? And I gotta say, it was a huge struggle to circulate my sexual energy when I was eating meat and all these dense foods. And it's because when you're eating these dense, heavy foods, the energy goes down. It's very heavy and it's dense. And I really do believe that our bodies are not equipped to digest meat properly. I really think that these dense foods bring dense energy. It brings discomfort. It brings dis-ease, and that heaviness, your sexual energy is not heavy. It's light. It is pure light. That's what it is. It's not just light versus heavy. It's light. It's light energy. It's spiritual. It's beautiful. It's infinite. It's lighter than air itself. It's so subtle. And so when you're pounding meat and burgers on top of your body, you just feel like, oh, and it brings you down. And man, I gotta say, when I started this detox, when I started eating fruits, because I did 40 days of fruits, nothing but fruits before I did this 90-day juice cleanse. And I'm on day 21 today. And circulating the sexual energy now is effortless. I thought I had a handle on it. I thought I had it down. I'm like, man, practice is on point, morning routine on point, getting my locks, my bandas, my breathing into my feet, my little, breathing into my testicles. I'm doing great. But then I started eating fruit and got off the meat and got off the carbs and the pasta and the heavy sauces. And I don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just take a nice, subtle, deep breath, bring the mind's awareness to the top of the head and to the feet simultaneously. And I might just float away. It's so effortless and easy and light and fluffy and mushy and nourishing. And oh, I just love it. It's the lighter we eat, the more spaciousness and more energy and easier it is to move that life force energy because nothing's bringing it down. It's just moving by itself. And then when you direct it with your mind and with your breath, oh, brah, let's grow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So curious, can a man actually do this energetic work if his physical vessel is bogged down by heavy dead or ultra processed foods? So is it still possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. I did it. It's definitely possible for sure. It'll take you a lot longer and it won't be as easy or effortless. And there's a lot of other things that come along with eating all those things. But yes, of course, I do believe in my experience, I was able to do it. Um, and, I really do think that, again, the lighter we eat and the fruits and just the juice, the raw living foods, because when the food is alive, we become alive, we are what we eat. If we're eating dead flesh, then we become dead flesh and our energy is not as alive as it could be. So I gotta say, the feeling of the energetics running through my body is heightened tenfold ever since I got on the fruits. And also another thing that was happening to me in the beginning, and this happened for quite a while in the beginning of my journey, and it sounds pretty intense, but I was literally shooting myself across the room. I had so much sexual energy that I was stimulating and circulating with these, again, tightening the pelvic floor and shooting the energy upward. And because my energy system wasn't clear, because it was bogged down and weighed down, and because of all the heavy emotions that came with that, and the fact that my Kundalini wasn't ready to be, I was just I wasn't ready spiritually. I wasn't ready energetically. I wasn't ready to be moving that energy, but I was forcing that energy upward. And so I feel like it would get stuck on the way up. It would get stuck on my solar plexus or my heart, somewhere along the spine. The energy wouldn't go all the way. It would only get to a certain point and it would get stuck. And I would literally, sometimes I swear, man, my knees would collapse and I would shoot myself across the room into the refrigerator and I'd pass out on the floor. I'd shoot so much energy up to my head and it would happen. It wasn't I wasn't grounding it too. I also wasn't breathing into my feet. I was just shooting it right from my sexual center, right up to my crown, and just literally blasting myself off. And sometimes my girlfriend would come home and I'd be passed out on the floor. She'd be like, "Are you doing sexual practices again?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, so it's dangerous. Like, sexual energy is not something to mess around with. It's something that you really want to be consciously connected with, and you want to make sure that your body is ready for it. You really want to make sure that you're taking care of this beautiful vessel, because if you're not, the energy can get stuck and not move correctly. And especially if you're not grounding it, please, if you're going to be circulating your sexual energy, make sure, just use that practice. Your feet are like little sponges. Your mind is like liquid. Absorb them out in your feet and always bring that energy back down. Don't leave it up here, because it's not safe for our energy, our sexual energy, to be stuck up in our crown. We get headaches, anxiety, we get overwhelmed. That energy needs to be grounded. That's number one thing.
Yeah, that's a great tip and something that I've, not experienced myself, but I have read about. And it is a little bit easier. It's still challenging to raise the sexual energy up, but it's a little bit easier to do that. But what's often not talked about is grounding it back down, bringing it back down to earth. So thank you for adding that little bit to it. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, is there anything more you want to expand upon as far as like the necessity of grounding that energy? Or I mean, I truly do love the depth that you have as far as your direct experience, because you've really gone through the full ringer of learning what to do and what not to do, and the full gambit of it. So if there's anything else that you want to share as far as like interesting experiences that came up, or um, uh, trial and error learning things, big tips that you want to share, anything else that comes to mind, I'd be curious.
Yeah, there's a couple things. First off, another big thing that I feel like a lot of men struggle with is erectile dysfunction. Um, and one of the things that I really had to surrender to was my penis being soft as a man. Because when you begin moving that sexual energy and grounding that sexual energy, you don't stay hard all the time. If you're moving that energy correctly, you're gonna go soft. And women don't want this rock hard, powerful, strong, tense man. They actually want a man that can surrender and really be present. That's a lot. That's really what women really want, is presence from a man. And I feel like a lot of us are, me personally, what I struggled with in the beginning of having sex in this way was I was always focused on, don't go soft inside of her. Or, oh no, what happens if I go soft? And I would actually go harder and faster and get caught in my head, rather than just being present with her and allowing it to happen naturally. So I feel like that's one thing that I really want to say is, when you do begin this journey, the energy does start moving. A soft cock is inevitable sometimes, and it's just surrendering to that and just being present and really loving yourself through that process. Um, and then an experience that I would say I had, was through Kundalini. So if you're doing Kundalini yoga, make sure that you are staying grounded, and please be careful, because Kundalini is very dangerous. It can be very dangerous. I did 4 to 5. I did about 200 days of yoga and Kundalini yoga every morning and every night. I got trained by a woman here on Maui, and got certified in Kundalini yoga. And what happens, what I do when I learn something and I smell truth, I dive in and I go all in, and I want to squeeze. It's almost like if there was like a rag, and when the rag was filled with truth, I would wring that thing out until there was nothing left, just so I can get the truth out of it, so I can experience the extreme of it, so I can find out what it actually is and then balance it out. And so Kundalini, I did 4 to 5 hours a day, 200 days in a row, and I went high. I blasted myself off. I went out to the heavens, and I was so not grounded. And it took me a good 6 months to a year to get back to earth. I was really high, was not grounded, was not earth, was not human, just completely in my head, Waheguru, Satnam all the time, and thought that I could eliminate all my issues just by saying Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. And it's literally the epitome and the journey of, it's literally the explanation of my life, as I've spent a lot of my life in my head thinking that I can figure things out and solve things through mantra and solve things by figuring it out in my head. And now what I'm realizing in this fruit journey and through grounding is that is the subconscious, and where a lot of our anxieties and a lot of our traumas and pains and stressors come from is the subconscious. The subconscious is in the body. And so what I'm learning is it's not about figuring it out, and it's not about, singing a mantra 200 times a day to alleviate your problems, because that problem's still going to be there. In order to heal it, you got to feel it, and it's in the body. And so what I'm noticing is how long I've spent trying to figure things out in my head. But through this fruit journey, I've noticed that, and this detox, I've had no chance but to go inside the body and feel, because there was so much happening in there that I couldn't suppress with cooked food because I was doing just juice. So I had to force myself to really go into the body and just reteach myself all these grounding practices that I did. And doing the grounding practices is one thing, but it's the intention behind why you're doing what you're doing. It's the intention that's everything. You can do all the grounding practices. You can do all the qigong, all the testicle breathing, all the circulating your sexual energy. You can breathe into your feet all you want, but if the intention is to escape, the problem's still going to be there. If the intention is to, you know, even with mantra practice is great, but if you're using it to escape, it's not going to help you. But if the intention is to heal and feel and be present with what's coming up and truly love yourself, if the intention is to ground yourself and to not run away, but to actually go through, because the only way out is through, then your prayers will be answered. And that's what I've noticed, is the only way out is through, and to really feel it. Just feel. There's nothing to run from, because on the other side of all that anxiety, there's nothing but love, because that's all there is love.
It's so true. And it's why I often talk about the tree being the perfect example of the true balanced spiritual evolution, because a tree not only, of course, it raises its branches high, it reaches high for the heavens, and that's sort of the more glamorous side of spirituality. But what does the tree also do? It grows its roots way down deep. It has to ground into that. And so having that balance between these two is what provides the stability. So oftentimes the easier things to sell are those reaching high. It's the stuff that's visible. It's where the branches are reaching up and out there. And that can be presented and alluring as an escapist route, as you're saying, because we're living in a traumatizing society and an inverted reality, and everything is kind of shitty, if we're just being honest about it. Everything, as far as like the way that man has constructed this society in this iteration, is kind of something to look for an escape route from. But
Mhm.
when we do that, when we fall into these traps, which is how a lot of these mainstream religions have taken these fundamental spiritual teachings and turned them into these escapist paths, and we bring them back into the root of what they're actually bringing, it's about that full integration, not excluding the body. We're not going anywhere else. We're not traveling to some far off distant planet to try and reach heaven or some afterlife or anything else. We're bringing heaven here. We're bringing that true beautiful space to this space. So
Mhm.
reach up to the heavens, absolutely touch heaven, but bring it back down to earth and share it, connect with it. So it's so
Yeah.
well said. And truly the ungrounded route can be extremely detrimental, and you don't have to look any further than something like plant medicine, being such a powerful activator to give somebody a taste of what that divine oneness can feel like and seem like. But if someone's not grounded and they're just using it as an escape, you can easily become uncoupled, untethered, and become schizophrenic, become so ungrounded that some people don't even come back from. As you mentioned, you were experiencing that for a year. Like, it can be a long time. So anything from Kundalini practices, even going deeper in the fruit, if that's seen as an
Mhm.
escapist route, all of these things can be very destabilizing if we're not truly focusing on that grounding essence that comes with it. So yeah, I thought that was really well said, and be curious if you have any more thoughts on what I just said.
Yeah, just one thing. It's not about ascending to God. It's about descending God into the body.
Yes.
if God is everywhere and God is in everything, that means God is within us and God is within you. So where are we trying to go? We're all trying to breathe up and meditate for an hour a day so we can have this amazing experience with God, but then, oh, I got to get back to life. It's like, what? No, we came here on this planet to experience God in the body and experience it in every moment. It's not about how long you meditate for. It's bringing your meditation throughout your entire day. It's making life a meditation. How can you be so utterly present? Because that's all meditation is. Meditation is just reminding you, and it's a practice to come into the present, into the present, into the present. But we get so lost in oh, finally I get to meditate. I get to escape because my life is so hell. It's like, no, 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 no. It's the meditation is a reminder of what's possible every single breath throughout the day. And that's, again, what I teach is absorbing the mind into the body, bringing God into the body. It's about really just absorbing that life force energy and living the experience of heaven on earth. It's not about getting to heaven. It's about bringing heaven, like you said, down to earth and truly descending God into your body and remembering that we are just a representation, just a reflection, just a beautiful experience of God herself, of God himself. And when we remind ourselves of that, life becomes so much easier because then we're living in the divine perfection and knowing that everything is happening for us, not to us. And everything is on the way, not in the way.
Yes, absolutely. X marks the spot, that crossing
Yeah.
point between divinity and physicality. That's us. We are that crossing point. And it's even in the word meditation. It's middle, at. I'm at the middle with my single eye on. So I'm in the middle at that crossing point in the present moment, here, now. There is nowhere else. So whatever practice I need to bring me back to the here and now, away from the distortions of the mind and where I can be brought to, that's what I need to do to bring me back. But yeah, it's so well said. I really appreciate you going into that. And I do want to, speaking of sort of the crossing points and connections, so you mentioned learning to connect with the feminine while embodying your masculine. For a guy who is overly analytical or disconnected, what does that actually look like in a daily dynamic with a partner?
Can you ask that question one more time, brother?
Yeah. So talking about connecting with the feminine while embodying your masculine.
Hmm.
So for someone who's highly analytical or disconnected, what does that actually look like in a daily dynamic with a partner?
Man, I'm still doing that every day. It's a practice. It's not something that you master, that's for sure. I mean, maybe some men, but not me. It's definitely a daily practice connecting with that beautiful essence of the feminine. And someone that's analytical, you're looking at them. I'm very analytical. I'm very in my head. And I mean, it's a journey, man. It's, again, women feel everything. The feminine feels everything. And they know when you're in your head. They know when you're not present. And that's all a woman wants, is for you to be present. And there's my beautiful beloved, Sophia, she says this a lot, I feel like, and I've been guilty of this so many times, is trying to figure out a routine or a practice that I can do that'll work every time. When you get in trouble, or when your woman's upset, or when something's going on, it's like, I want to have that tool that I can use in that moment to get me out of that situation. Cause I don't want to do that. So we all try to plan, or at least for me, I've tried to plan ahead and say, okay, if she does this, this is what I do, and that'll work, and you're banging your head against the wall. It's not going to work. What worked that one time was actually probably because you were present and because you were attuning yourself to the field. And that's what Sophia has really brought to my attention, is attunement. Attunement is getting out of your head, getting into your body. And then the next step is getting into her body. And then the next step after that is getting into the oneness body, the body that we're both creating together, the Trinity, right? There's her, there's you, and then there's God, the one that brings it all together in the Trinity, right? And so when you're in your head, you're not present. And if you're not present, then you're not feeling her. And then your tool is actually, again, with the intention, it's not actually an intention. it's tension in the field, and she feels that, and and again, it comes back to you trying to escape the situation instead of really attuning yourself to the field and asking what God wants, what she wants, what really is being asked of right now. And I promise you, I'd say at least 9 times out of 10, nothing is being asked for. The only thing that's being asked for is presence and breath and full listening. No fixing, no blaming, no shaming, no fixing. That's the thing. I can't even tell you how many times I've run into that problem where I try to fix something, and I hear what's coming up, and I go, oh, well, what about this or what about that? And most of the time, it's I just want you to listen to me, and it's hard to listen when we're in here, because in here we're always in the past or always in the future. We're never actually here in the present, and we cannot attune to the feminine if we're not present. And so again, these practices are the beginning step. It's not just about sexuality. I use these practices all day. It just continuously reminding myself to be in my body. Because if I'm not in my body, how the hell am I supposed to be in her body? And how am I supposed to be in the oneness body? There's no way. So it all starts with us. It all starts with us and our body being present in the moment by ourselves. And then a female comes in, and then that's a whole nother layer. Now let's tune into the field. And that's what I'm actually practicing right now still, is how to attune to the feminine, because it is not easy. But man, when you do, and you really do feel that presence of the feminine within you and aside and with you, and you connect to that Trinity, that God essence, there is no better feeling. There's a softening, there's a release, there's tears that come down, there's that letting go, there's that surrender and that falling into the present moment. I think that's where falling in love comes from, is just letting go and surrendering to the feminine. And then she softens and you soften, and then you can just melt together into this oneness of love. And there's no better feeling than that. But we've been trained so hard that we got to figure it out. We got to do goal oriented. There's something that we got to do, but there's nothing to do. It's just surrender. But in order to do that, you got to get out of your head. It's so fucking hard as a man.
It is. It is very challenging. It's that
Yeah.
the paradox of experience of these two seemingly opposite forces dancing together, and the friction between is the sacred sex, which is what all creation comes from. And so the the paradox is the masculine is designed to set up the container, the logical flow, the strategy, the fixing. All of these things are essential at times, but she is ultimately beyond containment, beyond definition, perpetually moving. So the trick is how do I be the perfect container to act as a canvas, a structure for her to paint on, but have no direction on what is painted? How can I provide that vessel for her to flow and dance, and the stage for her to be on, to dance on, but have no indication of what she should dance or how she should move?
Mm.
That's the balance. That's the balance between these two. And it's impossible to figure out, to strategize, to lay out, or to plan. And as a man, that can be maddening. Absolutely. I know that. I know that 100%.
Yeah.
But it is also the we wouldn't have it any other way, because without her, we lose all of the dynamic beauty and creative potential and extensive experience and wondrous filled magic that happens within the space. It would be mundane and boring and monotonous. And so we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Aho, brother. Yes, exactly.
Awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground today. For the men listening who recognize that they cannot navigate this path in isolation, Zach and I have opened up a free, dedicated men's group. It's simply a space for men to connect, to talk, and process these realities together. The only requirements are a commitment to honor the sanctity of the space, a willingness to be vulnerable, and the courage to show up with absolute authenticity. So, Zach, why is it so critical for men to have a space like this just to talk, rather than trying to do this alone?
Mm. Man, it is so hard doing it alone, because I did it, and it's not. Oh, dude, it's really challenging to do it alone. And not only that, but just on our first call, Justin, I cannot even begin to explain how beautiful it was to have these men show up with full honesty and vulnerability of where they were at. There was so many topics covered, one of them being as simple as erectile dysfunction. It's something that I feel like a lot of men do struggle with, but it's never talked about, and there's so many other things like the size of our penis or the way that we show up or how good we are in bed or there's so many different things that we're so afraid to be seen in, or we do have the thought and the fear of, I'm the only one experiencing this. There's not a lot of other men experiencing this, and there must be something wrong with me. And I really do feel that when we gather as men and we step up and be vulnerable and share our story, most other men are experiencing that or have experienced that. And just that release alone, to know that you're not alone and that it's actually normal to be going through what you're going through, is everything. Because once the intensity is gone and you can release that story that it's only you and that you're suffering and that there's something wrong with you and God hates you or why me, always me, once that's released, then the next step is, okay, well, what's the next step forward? How can we come together as men and really understand what this is and find the path forward on how we can heal this, or how we can um just move forward. And I really think that's one of the biggest things, is just the vulnerability in our group, man. It's so beautiful to watch these men, including myself, and having that space to just really be heard and be held, and to have other perspectives too. Just one call. I learned so much from that one call. There's this one brother that read a poem in this group that literally I started crying on camera because it was so beautiful, and it was everything that I've ever wanted in a woman, in the feminine, in a relationship, that I didn't even know I wanted to that depth until he read this poem. And just, man, I felt so met. And just really calling in all the brothers, letting them know that they're not alone, that there's nothing to do. It's just be and surrender and show up and know that we got you. We got each other, because we can't do this alone, you know?
So well said. Yes, absolutely. Community is 100% key. And it has been such an organic movement of coming together, and the shift is undeniably divine. And I'm so thrilled to continue. So if any men out there are interested in joining a group like this, like I said, it's completely free to join. We just ask to preserve the sanctity of the space. So if you do have interest in joining, just feel free to reach out to Zach or myself any which way that you can reach us. Um, and I do want to sort of hint at the larger program that you're wanting to release as well. And I'm truly honored that Zach has chosen me to step up and help him with hosting a course for those who really want to go a lot deeper, for those who really want to take this sexual mastery to another level. So I'm curious if you want to share just a little bit about the vision of this specific container that's coming very soon.
Yeah. So the container is called Primal and Vital. It's about what it's going to be is, it's going to be a 40-day cleanse on however that looks for you. I mean, every body is different and everyone's on a different part of their journey, and some people are already fruitarian and maybe they want to go on a juice cleanse. Some people are wanting to try the fruits, but they still have this attachment to cooked food. So there's different protocols on how we can work with that. But as long as we're moving forward in the direction of cleansing and really being aware of what we're putting in our bodies and increasing our vitality, that is the purpose of this group, is to move in the direction of increasing our vitality from within. And so that's the first step, is a 40-day cleanse together as men, supporting each other. And then the other part is the primal part, which is connecting to our sexual energy in a conscious way. And so the masterpiece method is a 12-week container. And so this container is going to be about 6 weeks. So you're going to get half of the masterpiece method. And there's 3 pillars to the masterpiece method, and it's regulation, circulation, and embodiment. And so what we're going to cover is we're going to cover regulation. So I'm going to be teaching half of the edu sequence, which is a spinal maintenance practice that balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain, regulates the nervous system, and strengthens the spine. There's also a practice in there that helps open up the sacrum, which is the gateway and which needs to be open in order for our sexual energy to flow from our genitals to our spine. And the spine is the main channel in which we'll be moving our sexual energy. That's how we move the sexual energy from our genitals up the spine to our higher centers and grounding it back down through mind-body awareness practices, like I said. So we're going to be covering a lot of that, a lot of regulation, a lot of nervous system regulation tools. We're going to be learning about how to absorb the mind into the body, these different energy centers that we were talking about on this call. And so that's the regulation piece. And then we're going to start circulating our sexual energy. And so we'll probably get halfway through the circulation piece. And so at the end of this course, you'll have the tools needed to regulate your nervous system and begin to, and you'll have the tools to absorb your mind into the body. And you'll have the tools to start circulating your sexual energy out of your genitals throughout into the rest of your body. We're going to be covering the full microcosmic orbit. And yeah, there's going to be different breathing techniques too. One of them is a breathing technique that Taoist masters would use to melt ice underneath their body, because there's the thing called the Dantian, which is the battery pack. It's our power center, and it's where we can actually store our sexual energy, so it's not so overwhelming in our genitals. And this breathing practice is a Dantian breathing practice where it heats up the Dantian so much that it melts ice underneath your body. It's so activating, and it's just a really powerful practice. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you guys. So in this 40 days, you are going to get a lot of tools, enough to be able to move that energy out of your genitals, which I feel like a lot of us are just wanting to do that in a relaxed, regulated way. And then we'll go from there. But that's the first step, right? Is regulating our nervous system, coming together as men, being aware of what we're putting in our bodies, and learning how to circulate our sexual energy consciously throughout our whole body so it's not stuck.
Beautiful. Wow. It is really going to be incredibly powerful. And Zac is truly a godsend in the wisdom that he's bringing to the table. And I'm very excited to jump into this further. So stay tuned for more announcements on that. And, this is related, of course, to the group, but I just want to say that the group is a separate thing. This is something that is just a space for men to share about their unique sexual experiences and moving through that. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you are interested in joining that group, and stay tuned for more announcements as far as the course that's upcoming as well. So yeah, I do want to say, Zac, just give you an opportunity to sort of share more about like where people can reach you or how they can find more about your work and what you do, if you want to give a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's Zac McKnight, ZAC _McKnight, MCKNIGHT. I'm documenting my whole 90-day juice cleanse journey. So it's really raw. So if you're ready to see some rawness, there's days where I'm feeling really down and it's rough. And there's some emotional releases on there that I do as well, where I'm releasing my emotions through yelling at a pillow and pounding pillows and there's other days that I'm bright and shiny, like today. Hey, day 19, feeling freaking awesome, And so it's kind of it's a cool thing I've been wanting to do, is share my journey. And so that's what I'm doing there. And then I also just drop little seeds of wisdom on sexual energy as well, on how to move our sexual energy, or just awareness on the pelvic floor. I post different podcasts and stuff that I'm on, and there's a lot of cool little, meditations and wisdom on there as well. And that's how you can reach me. I also have a website called mpalign.com. So M is in mom, P is in Pam, align.com. That's my Alpha Biotic website. That's where you can read more about Alpha Biotics and how I take people out of that fight or flight stress state into a regulated rest and digest mode by sending a high sensory input to the back of the brain to interrupt that stress pattern, to bring the body into a parasympathetic state so that the body can heal itself. It's a very powerful practice. It is only done in person. I do have a beautiful home here in Maui, Hawaii, and me and my beloved are actually welcoming men and women to come down and have 7 to 10 day immersions with us, where we actually go on a detox journey together, see where you're at in your journey with food and how we can, she's a regenerative health coach. And so she's been doing this for years and she's really well versed in that realm. And so we're going to be doing that. And then if it's a man, we're going to be teaching him, these sexual energy practices and getting alignments every day and completely coming to probably one of the most regulated states you've ever been in your life. It's very powerful, and just teaching other practices as well. And then I'm in the process of building a website called Zacmcknight.life. And so that's coming soon in the next week or two. I'm working with my one of my really good friends. He's helping me build the website, and that's going to have more of the men's sexual mastery, masterpiece method, different containers and different immersions and practices and whatnot as well. So, and then of course the WhatsApp group. Once we get really going and we start having a solid foundation of men, we already have I think like what, 15, 16 men right now. It's happening really fast. But once we have that solid ground and we start having consistency and everyone starts opening up, I will be sharing practices in there too, different breathing techniques and everything, and just making it fun and because that's my passion. I just love teaching. I love gathering people together. This isn't mine, this is God's. I'm just here to share it. So I'm just happy to be of service in any way that I can. So
Well, thank you for that. And I'll make sure to list all the links in the description for sure. And yeah, just in case you didn't pick up on this, but his beloved is actually Sophia, who did a part 1 and part 2 on this channel. We spoke on the feminine inversion and the sacred ripening. So she's a very powerful speaker, and I'm sure she will be back for more. We definitely love speaking with her. So yeah, I want to. First off, I just want to thank you, Zach, for coming on. Like, it's been such a pleasure getting to know more about you and your practice, hearing about your story, learning more about your dedication and just passion behind it. Um, so I just wanted to say, is there anything that you want to leave the community? Any other thoughts that you feel like we didn't touch on? Any other things you want to leave men, words of encouragement? Anything that comes to mind?
Hmm. Hmm. I would just say that you're not broken, that you're not alone, and it's so much easier than we can possibly comprehend. And I understand that it's freaking hard and it's not easy. And life can be really challenging sometimes. And the day and age that we're in right now is a wild one. I mean, you as a soul, whoever you are out there listening to this, you chose quite the time to come to planet Earth. And I honor you and really honor you on your journey and your path. And just know that you're doing such a great job just showing up every day, choosing life every day. And yeah, just know that, yeah, you're not alone, man. And if you're really feeling the call, I would love to have you on the WhatsApp group, jump on a call with you just to hear you, to hold you, love you, whatever it is that you need. I just really want to gather and call in the men that are just ready to come together and hold each other and love each other, because I feel like there's so much happening with women's empowerment, so much happening with women's circles, and there's a lot happening with men's circles too. But the one thing I feel like that's really missing in the men's circles is sexual energy. That's not very talked about in many circles. They're always about being that warrior and showing up and being the masculine, being that masculine figure and holding your ground and grabbing your sword and, just masculine practices, which are great, amazing. But sexual energy is where it all begins. If if we're being run by our sexual energy and our sexual energy is controlling us, and we're not consciously connected to it, and we're being driven by it unconsciously, all those other practices are not even going to have the vitality and the strength and the oomph and the love behind it that it could. It all starts with life force energy. And if that's not taken care of, everything else from there on is not going to be as potent, as regulated, as beautiful as it could be. Because All I can remember when I wasn't consciously connected to my sexual energy, it didn't matter who I was dating, didn't matter who I was with. If someone told me there was a pair of boobs outside, I would run outside in a heartbeat to go check out a pair of boobs. You know, if there was like like something going on online or a video, or if I'm scrolling through Facebook and there's a pair of boobs or a half naked woman, I'm going right there. And it's like it's really it's crazy how drawn we are to sexual energy, how it's so powerful. It literally takes over us in a second. We could be doing the most important thing that our life is asking for right now. And then a woman bends over in our peripheral vision and we literally immediately go, and if that has that much power, why are we not consciously connecting to that and learning how to be a master of that and circulate that throughout the body so that we can direct that energy away from the woman bending over and into our purpose, into our passion, into our mission, into our beloved, if you have one, or into our body, and learn how to use this energy to heal our organs, to open our hearts, to heal our emotions and our traumas, and learn how to direct that energy. It's essential for being the masterpiece of life itself. So yeah, that's the last thing I would say, is that you're not alone. You're doing a great job. And let's come together as men and learn how to direct this energy in a conscious way. Because, man, it's already controlling us. Might as well step up and learn how to control it so we can become the masterpiece of life itself.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Cool. Mhm. Cool. So I'm actually going to end this transmission by reading the poem that that Zach mentioned earlier today. So this is a poem written by our dear brother Orion Infinity, and it was really just such a powerful, inspirational signal to really represent the energy behind what we're doing and why we're doing it here. So I'm just going to read this and close out. So this poem is called "The Seed of Heaven" by Orion Infinity. There comes a moment in a man's becoming when his fire remembers its origin, no longer scattered into passing shadows, no longer given to the wind of fantasy. His seed turns inward, becoming light. He remembers that his essence is not for many, but for one. That to pour life into the vessel of his beloved is to pour himself into God. That within her holy body, he meets the infinity of his own soul, the ocean that once split itself into two just to taste reunion. In that remembrance, his desire becomes prayer, his body becomes temple, his seed becomes sacrament, no longer a currency of pleasure, but a song of creation itself. And the woman, his mirror, receives not the man's lust, but his devotion. She feels heaven move through her like morning through a blossom. For it is not him who enters her, but love returning to its source. Celibacy, then, is not denial, it is alignment. It is the golden silence before the thunder of creation. It is the vow that says, I will not spill the rivers of my soul into anything less than eternity. And when the time comes, when two souls stand as one flame, he releases not in conquest, but in communion. He plants his seed in the garden of God, and from that union, heaven grows anew.